Hello and welcome back to the Okanagan Reader. I'm your host, Jim Bowering. And that was my telephone. I don't know what's going on with that. I'll check that later. Not important. So, subscribe, like, yada yada. Now to move on to the story. Today's reading is of Chapter 8. It's the beginning of Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is really long, an hour long. And I didn't think anybody would want to sit down and listen to an hour-long reading. So I've broken it up into 4 parts. This will be part 1. In this part, Elgin finds out why Minder has been hiding his legs, and he finds out why there are lights in his face. In addition, he learns that they're scheduled to have an excursion. They're going to go out into the hallways and down to the square where most of what takes place on the comet takes place. So they have a really good breakfast together, and they talk and they learn a bit more about each other, and they become better friends, and then they get to go out, and we get to discover more about Green Comet. So that should be enough introduction, and we should be able to go directly to the listening part. So here we go.
Chapter 8. The Square. Elgin was awake when Minder arrived. He was determined to find out why the young man was so careful to conceal his lower half. He'd been trying since he noticed, with peeking and surprised looks. He'd even tried feigning sleep to catch him off guard. Now he was planning on being by the door when Minder came in. He figured he wouldn't expect that, but if this didn't work, he didn't know what he'd do. He damned well wasn't going to ask. 15 minutes went by. Elgin could hear Minder moving around in the anteroom. Why wasn't he coming in? What could he be doing out there all this time? Elgin frowned just a little bit and waited another 10 minutes. Finally he got fed up and went out. "Minder, what are you doing hanging around out here?" "Ah, Elgin," said Minder, "awake at last." "I've been awake for an hour," snapped Elgin. "An hour?" Minder smiled at him and smoothed his apron. It was a big apron. It covered a lot. "What have you been doing in there for an hour?" "I was waiting for you." Elgin couldn't take his eyes off the apron. "Why didn't you come in?" He casually sidled over, hoping to see around it. Minder turned to follow him. "I was preparing breakfast." He gestured at the table. "I thought you'd be feeling like getting up today, so I wanted to have something nice ready for you." The table was covered with tasty-looking food. Once Elgin noticed it, he realized he'd been smelling its delectable aroma all along. His stomach growled, distracting him from Minder's apron. He enjoyed the pleasant sensation of hunger for the first time since waking up. He drifted over and picked up a piece of toast, inhaled its redolent aura of iceberry jam, and took a big bite. Minder joined him at the table, and they shared breakfast, chatting between bites. They talked about little things. How was Elgin feeling? How did this compare with his previous wakings? Minder, being young, only had one waking to compare, so he appeared fascinated by Elgin's rich experience. They got to know each other a little better in that half hour. When they were done, Minder turned more serious. "Elgin, there's something I have to tell you." Elgin looked at him, and the expression on Minder's face set his skin pricking. His synesthesia was reintegrating his senses, but the rush of smells and colors and other sensations was still a little uncoordinated. "What is it?" His worst fear flared. "Frances, has something happened to her?" No. Minder was quick to reassure him. "There's been no change in her condition. If there ever is, you'll know first thing. No one would ever keep that from you." Elgin relaxed. "All right, then. What is it?" Minder moved away from the table and began to untie his apron. "I know you've been curious about this, and now it's time to show you." Elgin waved his hands. "No, you don't have to. It's your prerogative. It's none of my business if there's something." Elgin sputtered to a stop. He was embarrassed, felt caught out. Minder smiled at him, making it worse. You know you're dying to find out. You've been trying for the last 2 days. I have not, Elgin lied. Now he felt foolish. It's all right. We knew you'd be curious, but we wanted to wait until you were mostly recovered from hibernation disorientation first. He pulled the apron aside. Elgin stared, blinking. At first he couldn't make out what he was looking at. He knew there was something wrong with Minder's legs. He could see that they were deformed somehow. They were too short, and the knees didn't bend the right way. And the feet were all wrong. He gasped when he saw one of them flexing like a hand. A couple of seconds of disbelief, then the shock of realization. It was a hand. And the leg it was attached to wasn't a leg at all. It was an arm. The other one was a perfectly symmetrical replica. Minder had 4 arms and 4 hands. He looked up, full of concern and pity. What happened? And, thought Elgin, why hadn't it been corrected? It's okay. You don't have to feel sorry for me. Minder spread his 4 arms. This isn't a birth defect or a mutation. Elgin was speechless. He was a bit ashamed now of his presumptuous pity, but still at a complete loss. Then, Elgin began, and stopped. I mean, if it's, he tried, and that is if it's not. He stared at Minder's lower arms. They were slightly larger than his regular arms and more robust. The hands were larger too. Not so much longer in the fingers as thicker and heavier looking. They didn't look as if they would have the dexterity of the upper hands, but they certainly looked stronger. They were oriented the same way as the original ones, with the arms at rest. All 4 thumbs were on top, so using the new hands would be similar to what he was used to. Elgin soon realized that having arms in place of legs must be something that Minder chose. It would be something like the thick coat of fur that everyone wore for the necessarily cold environment, or the enhancements to their eyes, or cryptic genitalia. Once he saw that, he really started to stare. Now, instead of a slightly uncomfortable social problem, it became an interesting technical problem, and that was right up Elgin's alley. Minder finally began to feel awkward under the intense scrutiny. Elgin noticed a slight withdrawal, with the arms folding in a little. He also thought he saw a play of light on Minder's cheeks. That seemed odd, since out here there were none of the colored lights that were on the medical instruments in the bedroom. Just normal yellow daytime lighting. He chalked it up to a lingering after effect of hibernation, and got back to Minder's arms. Seeing Minder's discomfort, Elgin said, "Sorry, I don't mean to stare." "Not at all," said Minder. "It's perfectly natural for you to be curious." He smiled, while faint hints of light glowed in his cheeks. "I'll let you examine them to your heart's content any time you want. If it doesn't bother you too much, I wouldn't mind having a closer look." Elgin floated over and took hold of the lower hand Minder offered to him. He closely examined the palm and felt its texture. He felt the leg, or arm, jerk and saw Minder squirm. "Sorry, still ticklish, eh?" He chuckled, then continued the inspection. "It has the same setae?" Minder nodded, and Elgin worked his way up the arm, feeling the bones. They didn't feel exactly like arm bones, but just like modified leg bones should feel. They had more mobility than leg bones, but they were still sturdier than arm bones. The elbow retained characteristics of a knee, but with more rotational freedom, and without all the mass and ligaments of a joint built for support under gravity. The shoulder felt peculiar. "This is still a hip joint, isn't it?" "Yes," said Minder, feeling decidedly odd. "We don't really need the same range of motion there, so we've opted to keep it simple." Elgin nodded. "The original shoulder is a bit of a kludge," he said. He felt Minder beginning to tense up and let him go. "So I can see the benefit of an extra pair of hands," he smiled. "As an engineer, they would have been useful." "Oh, they are. You'd be surprised." "I bet, and they probably get in the way less, too." "Yep, getting around is a lot easier." "Anything else?" "Yes, it sidesteps the whole issue of legs pushing blood into the upper body in microgravity, and it feels better balanced, too, although that's quite subjective." "Well, I admit it took me by surprise, but I can see why you would do it," said Elgin. More and more people are having it done, usually during their first sleep, and a few people are starting to make it a heritable trait. Do you think you might do it? Elgin thought for a while, looking at Minder's unfamiliar proportions. It was a bit much to contemplate at his age. He said, "Probably not." Then, hibernation disorientation? Couldn't you find a longer way to say that? What happened to sleep lag? Sorry, my fault. I should have done more research. I wasn't sure if we were using sleep lag when you were last awake. Minder took a deep breath, then said, "Elgin, I can see that something else has caught your attention, too." "What?" "I'm sure you've noticed lights in my face from time to time. I've seen you looking." "They're real?" "Yes." "That's a relief." Elgin peered and was rewarded with a little reddish glow. "First I thought it was the medical lights reflecting off your face. Then I thought it was, what did you say, hibernation disorientation." He saw the glow deepen slightly. "My sensual integration has been slow this time." "No, your senses are fine. Well, your vision in this case." "Good," said Elgin. "So, all that remains is the obvious question. Why do you have lights in your face?" "Let's see if you can guess." "Okay, sure." Elgin thought for a moment. "All right. First, is it biological or technological?" "Biological." "So it's something you had done during hibernation, or did you inherit it from your parents?" "It's heritable." "Is it just you, or do other people have it?" "Virtually everyone has had it for the past 2 centuries." "Ah, so it's not a fad then." "No, it's on par with fur or vision." Elgin pondered, frowning. "That means it's considered a necessity. It's something that everyone agrees is important to life on this comet." "Yes," said Minder. "Is it some form of communication?" That made sense. In the dim lighting and with their good vision, such lights could be used to communicate. Could there be a whole language of the lights? That alarmed him. "Am I going to have to learn another language?" "No," said Minder. "You already know this language." Then Elgin had a clear flash of the right answer. "It's the blush reflex, isn't it?" Minder nodded. "And you've modified it, replaced, or maybe enhanced the vasodilation with bioluminescence." "That's right." Elgin moved in closer, peering at Minder's cheek. He reached out and parted the fur, trying to see the skin at the base of the dense growth. Minder obliged him with a little blush, and he could see both a reddening in the skin and a glow as well. "Kept the blush itself, I see." "Yes, it's felt that the warm sensation is an important part of the reflex. So you know when you're blushing." "Yes, it's a social display, and it's most effective when everyone's involved." "I see what you meant about already knowing the language. Now that I know what it is, it all makes sense." He looked Minder in the eyes. "You sure blush a lot," he said with a little smile. Minder glowed brightly. "I know. I always have. Kids used to tease me to make me blush." He shrugged his shoulders. "Sometimes I wish I didn't have the bio-glow." "Yeah, that's what I was wondering. It might be nice to hide your blushing, save some embarrassment." "I know." Minder compressed his lips and shook his head. "But everyone agrees that the social communication is more important. The way we live, we need to know how each other is feeling." "Even you? Do you think it's worth it?" "Absolutely. A little discomfort is a small price to pay for the good of the comet." Elgin nodded. Minder's willingness to sacrifice for the comet was practically a universal trait among its inhabitants. "Good attitude. And don't worry, people tend to like you better if you blush once in a while." "Sure, thanks," Minder said with a flat smile. "So do you think you'll?" "Probably not." Elgin couldn't imagine doing it without Frances, especially the legs. As soon as he thought of her, he saw her in his mind's eye. She was beautiful, with her golden fur and eyes, and her long straight legs. Now he realized that her legs were part of what he found especially attractive about her. At the time he didn't particularly single them out, but now he could see that they were part of her overall gracefulness. When he thought about it, he wasn't sure if he would want to go for the leg modification, even if she were here. He'd wait and see what she said. She'd know. "Do you have more questions?" asked Minder while clearing the table. No, said Elgin, bemused to see the young man absently holding a plate in one of his lower hands. It's just quite a lot to take in all at once. I know, said Minder, looking despondent. He picked up another plate. Sorry. Don't be sorry, said Elgin. I'm glad you showed me. He watched as Minder picked up another plate and added it to the others. I was going to find out eventually, and you've saved me from what could have been quite a shock. That was the idea, said Minder. We thought you should be prepared. I agree. That was a good decision. Thank you, but... But what? He could see that the youngster was having a difficult time. He looked as if he was disappointed about something. Minder looked ready to speak, but he closed up. No, it's nothing to bother you with. It's my problem. Okay, said Elgin. I understand. He wouldn't pry if the boy didn't want to talk about it. But still, I'm happy to listen if you do want, though. Minder's expression relaxed. He said, Okay, I guess I could tell you. He organized his thoughts. I failed. I had a few simple things to accomplish as I assisted your waking, and I didn't do it. I needed to show you my second arms and the bioglow, and with 3 days to do it, I ended up dropping them on you all at once. I see, said Elgin. Now I really feel stupid. For the way you handled it, don't feel stupid. You did all right. That was a good way to do it. No, I mean, here I am making a big deal out of it. You've got more important things to think about than this. Not right now. Elgin made sure he had Minder's attention. Listen, Minder, I've worked with a lot of people, a lot of good engineers. The ones who become great engineers are the ones who did just what you're doing now. Really? Really. The great ones are never completely happy with their work. They're always looking for what they can do better. They are? Minder started to smile. They are. I think you have what it takes to be a great minder. A great minder? He blushed self-consciously, embarrassed to be compared to Elgin's associates. Not really in the same league, though, am I? Elgin frowned at him. Don't sell yourself short. This job is just as important as theirs. Really? Really. Minder didn't believe it. Elgin could see it in his face and his body language. It was obvious he couldn't equate his work to the great engineering accomplishments that had made Green Comet into a comfortable and beautiful place to live. He said, I've known a lot of great engineers, Minder, and every one of them needs a minder when they come out of hibernation. Minder looked up, surprise and dawning awareness in his face. Like you, he said. Even the greatest of men like you need a minder when they wake up. He was brightening right up. This job really is important, isn't it? Being a minder for someone like you. He stopped abruptly when he finally saw the glower growing on Elgin's brow. Elgin spoke quietly, but there was no mistaking the power there. Every job is important. Every waking sleeper is important. Of course, Minder said hastily, remembering what he'd learned about Elgin's violent rejection of any attempt to elevate him above others. He tried hard to see the truth of the lesson he was getting from Elgin. I think what you're telling me is that, well, all jobs are important. All work is valuable. That's right, Elgin said gruffly. And, Minder quickly added, that we should honor our work by doing it with the dedication it deserves. Oh, I know what I want to say, but I just can't get it right. You're doing fine, said Elgin, his aura softening a little. I can tell you understand it. With one last riveting glance, he said, all that's left is to see if you can live it. Right. Minder looked abashed. He wasn't entirely sure he'd be able to live up to Elgin's expectations. So, said Elgin, what else is on the agenda? Whatever it is, it'll have to be pretty good to stand up to what's happened so far. Oh, right, said Minder. I completely forgot, what with, everything. He got a look on his face that Elgin would come to recognize as an attempt to quell a blush. It didn't work. So anyway, yes, there is something else on the agenda for today, that is, if you're up to it. Let's hear it and we'll see. Right, of course. We thought, If you were doing well and the vertigo was under control, you might like to go out for a little excursion. What? Leave these rooms? Elgin said, feigning horror. What were you thinking? So it's okay then? You'd like to go out? Yes, of course. I'm tired of lying around here. Good. I'll just finish cleaning up and we can go. Elgin had a thought. Hold on a minute. This is just you and me going out for a little exercise, right? You're not planning any surprises, are you? No, said Minder. I just thought we'd go to the square. It's only a couple of kilometers and we can come back the minute you're tired. The square? You mean the same square? Yes, the same. The square, mused Elgin. A rapid series of memories riffling by. The construction of it. The social outings, presentations, art installations, and public announcements that just naturally took place there. Its destruction and rebuilding. That brings back memories, he said, and now I know where I am, too. People tended to give directions or describe events relative to the square. If we're that close to the square, then I know just where we must be. He saw Minder's face get worried again and quickly figured out what it must be. No, Minder, you haven't failed. There was no reason for you to think of telling me our exact location before now. Minder blushed yet again, then made a good recovery. I'll take your word for that, he said. Good. So if you're done there, let's go.